Hello and welcome to the MG EVs podcast on Monday, the 30th of November 2020. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you enjoy these live podcasts, hit the bell to get notification when we publish each new video. We'd also be grateful if you'd hit a like button as it tells YouTube to make our videos more prominent. So thank you so much for your support. Let me introduce the panel today. We've got Steve.
Hello, everybody.
Michael.
Hi, everybody.
And Michael.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, actually, I should have specified which Michael I was going to turn into there. So we've got Michael Proctor and Michael Fisher on the call. Cool. So this week, we've got a couple of discussion topics that we'd like to go through. This is based on prominent topics that we've had on the forum the past week. So first off, kind of breaking news in the world of MG ZF's EVs is the battery heater update that was reported in Norway. And Mike, you posted about that this week.
Yes, we heard a long time ago, many months, probably the end of winter of last year, that MG spoke to Bjorn, Tesla Bjorn, of that there was going to be some form of heating update for the battery. And we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for it. We've had the second generation comfort update. We've had a couple of BMS updates. We've had the HV fuse update. And now this. And basically, it allows us, from what I can gather, to switch the battery heating on, and it will stay on all the time, but it will keep cooled by the water cooling of the battery. So it will get up to temperature. I'm assuming that the heater in the car is a PTC heater, and so will draw very little current when it's heating the battery. So I'm assuming it's the same heater as what we have inside the car for the cabin heating. And why do we need it? Well, for those of you who have rapid charged the car at this time of year, you're probably getting quite low charge speeds, especially on the first rapid charge, and that's because the battery is cold. Driving the car fast doesn't seem to make the battery warm. In fact, somebody quoted the other day, driving it like a boy racer might increase the temperature by 7 or 8 degrees if you're lucky, and that's over a long distance, and that's not normally that practical. Whereas this will actually heat up the battery up to temperature, so that when you actually get to the charger, it should charge at the full rate that the car and the charger are capable of at that point in time. Once you've got the first rapid charge out of the way, the battery should be warm enough and you shouldn't need to have the battery heater on again. That's my understanding of it. And also, as you're probably aware, cold batteries, batteries just don't like the cold. As an extreme example, my daughter a couple of winters ago walked up Helvellyn with her iPhone in her outside pocket of her jacket. It was cold, it was snowy up the top. She pulled the phone out of her pocket to take some photos and it was completely dead.
Yep.
So she couldn't take any photos. Came down the hill, or mountain, I think they call it up there. And it had warmed up by then. I think she might have even remembered to put it in an inside pocket. And the phone came back to life. So that's an extreme case of heat and batteries. Batteries like warm, but not very, very hot, because I don't know if I've had iPhones which in the past have got really, really hot and the display dims right down and they go slow because they're overheating, especially if you leave them in the sun like we had earlier on this year during lockdown. So back to the car, heating, it will help, and help with rapid charging, and it may also make the car more efficient during the winter times. But there will be a hit on the battery because it takes the juice from the battery, the high voltage battery. So it may be, yes, you'll get it more efficient, but you're going to use more juice, more energy to make it more efficient. So it might not be worth it just to
Yeah.
keep it on all the time.
Yeah, I guess it might be something that we possibly have to switch on when it's needed on a long journey, but have it switched off at other times.
I think
to me, it
so.
kind of strikes me a bit like a plug-in hybrid where they've got the charge mode where you can run the engine to charge a battery, and it kind of is counterintuitive because you're spending more energy and costly energy with the using more petrol to actually get a little bit of battery range. And I'm wondering if it's the same kind of trade-off that it might be with this, that if you're running the heater all the time, okay, your rapid speeds might be faster, but you're dropping 20 miles of range, so you're charging more often.
Yes.
Ask why would this be something that we'd need to turn on and off ourselves? Why wouldn't the car do this automatically?
Very good question. And I don't have an answer to that. MG are the ones who've written it. I would have thought that they'd do it for, you'd switch it on, it would be a toggle switch or something that you just, that's what I would expect. Use that redundant battery switch we have now down beside the KERS switch, flick that on, and it comes on for 15 minutes. That would have been more than adequate.
Mm-hmm.
Like going back to the days of a choke.
Yes. Yeah. So
that's really interesting, Mike, and I think it's definitely something that we'll have to monitor as UK dealers start to tell us that we can get that installed on our next update that we can potentially get. Hopefully, no cost involved, but
yeah,
something like it might be a bit more optional. It might be a bit more like Comfort Pack 2, so you'll probably get a variance of offers from dealers on that.
Yes, well, I spoke to my dealer earlier on to find out about this because I'd heard that it was available in the UK, and his tech wasn't in who could check, and they're supposed to be going to get back to me tomorrow and let me know. So we'll see.
Cool. Has anybody had any extreme experiences with rapid charging as of yet, where it's not been that fast? Michael,
yeah,
you probably had the car the longest.
Yeah, I've had my car now for a year. It's had its first service a week ago.
Cool. So you've wintered with it.
Yes.
I've had one experience rapid charging, but it was quite literally ecotricity, and plugged it in, got 25 kilowatts, and I was at 50%. But all I wanted to do was quickly charge it, go to the toilet, come back, and then just go.
Mm-hmm.
Just a top-up charge, just so that then I didn't have to eco drive all the way to London.
Yeah, my first one happened on the day I was driving the car back home after having picked it up, and I stopped at Norton Keynes Ecotricity, the site there, and it's my first charge. I thought, oh, it's a slow charger, and didn't even think that it was to do with the car, with Coldgate, because having been driving an Nissan Leaf 40 in that temperature, it had been going flat out on its first charge, but not the MG. So hopefully this will speed things up, because there was one time when I went to Cobham and I hadn't charged the car overnight because I wasn't expecting to use it, and there was a family emergency, so I thought I'd go and help out. So I jumped in the car and decided to stop at Cobham with about 40–50%, and I think after 30 minutes I put in 10 kilowatts. It was crazy, and I gave up and just went on, and eventually I managed to find somewhere, but I was getting very close to the limit on that particular journey.
Because I was wondering, with this battery heating option, will it change the dynamics that you have at the moment, where if you're trying to rapid charge a car and you've got too much battery percentage in there for its liking, the charge curve just generally is quite low. It won't peak above, say, 35 kilowatts if you've got more than 50% in the battery.
It probably, I doubt it. I expect the state of charge still will make it. It still makes the most effect on the charge curve. I mean, I stopped at Milton Keynes Coachway back in the summer on the hottest day of the year. It was like 37, 38 degrees, 34 degrees, somewhere. It was hot. And we'd driven the car for about 110 miles. And I'd got, I think it was 44% I had left. And I plugged it into the Ionity charger deliberately to see if I could get it to go to charge at a decent speed. And 48 kilowatts at 44% with a hot battery. But later on that trip, coming home, it was cooler. I'd done one rapid charge on the way home, and I then stopped at Instavolt in Marcham, and I got 72.5 kilowatts. What I have noticed, though, is the difference between the high-speed charging and the 50 kilowatts one. It's about 5 minutes difference in total. That's all it makes. So yes, the car's capable of charging at 80 kilowatts or 85, whatever MG's originally said it was. But in reality, it will only save you about 5 minutes.
Right.
Did that answer the question?
I think so, yeah. So kind of going on from cold gating into another topic we had on the forum this week, there was people talking about cold weather issues and trying to get the cars up to temperature. So I think it might be a good thing to sort of bring a few topics together there about, tyre pressures. Obviously, it's kind of important to check your tyre pressures this time of year because they do tend to vary between autumn and the winter and then back into the spring. I had an old car that constantly used to get its TPMS light going off between 4 months of winter, just like pretty much every week. I'd like filled it up with air and then it'd be going, no, one of your tyres is too low. So definitely I'm not seeing that with the MG yet, but obviously it's something to sort of keep an eye on.
Yeah, I did notice on mine this morning. I normally have mine on 36 religiously, and this morning I was scrolling through all the menu settings, and it was showing that mine, because it was really cold here this morning, it was showing that mine were 32. So it does seem to fluctuate depending on the weather.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. But because TPS seems to be the relationship between the difference between the wheels on the MG. So if you had one that went down, then I think the TPMS would go off. But if they're all the same, it doesn't warn you.
It's quite happy with a constant decrease across the board.
Yeah.
And what have you done about preheating, Mike? Because obviously you've come from a Leaf previously. How did you struggle through winter without having that facility last year?
It was actually fine because the Leaf one, their app was pretty crap, basically, and so it probably worked 1 in 3 times. And and the car gets up to temperature, gets warm pretty quickly, and that seat heater is very, very effective and gets very hot. But what is good about it is if you leave it on, it does actually thermostatically turn on and off. So you can leave it on for quite a long time and have quite a nice warm and back, which I did this morning because it was about 4 degrees down here, which is for us in the south cold.
Yeah, that's really chilly for down
there. Yes. And
I've had keep that seat heater on for more than about 5 minutes because it just gets so warm for me.
If you leave it on, it will turn off. It is thermostatically controlled. So I've discovered.
When your bum's on fire.
Yeah, and then it cools down and then it goes back on fire again. But yes, preheating would be nice, and we'll cover that in a later topic.
Yeah.
Today.
Cool. So as far as sort of general heat levels in the car, how's everybody getting on with traveling around at the moment? Are you hats, gloves, scarf, or enjoying the heating of the car and taking a little bit of hit on the range?
Heat on full. I find it heats up very quickly though. Rather than my petrol car and my diesel cars that I've had that take I'm practically at work by the time the heating's on. By the time I'm at the end of the road, the car's blowing out some quite hot air. So yeah, I'm quite impressed with that. It just keeps on blowing out hot air. You can't set it to a temperature, say 22 degrees, which like climate control, which is a shame. But aside from that, it's either hot or cold, or but that'd be nice. Well, maybe in a future model that might happen.
Well, the MG5 has climate control.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are looking to get an MG5, it solves that problem. You can just set the dial to the temperature you want and it will stay at it.
Beautiful.
It might only be in the exclusive and not the Excite, though. I'm not 100% sure on that.
I think you might be right about that, yeah.
But hopefully that'll come to a future revision of the ZS.
I find the car actually very warm. As before, when I had the Ford, I literally had to keep my coat on for the whole journey to work. With this car, at the moment, I'm taking my coat off before I get in, and then getting freezing cold, because when you're in the car and get the heating going, that's it. I'm hot. I'm warm in that car.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't drive with a coat or with hat or a scarf or gloves. And I just get in, turn the heating on. Most of the time, I'm just running it at about sort of two or three blobs, sometimes as low as one, with the blower on sort of 1 or 2. So it tends to be on the cooler side, but it's fine. It keeps me awake. Whereas
you don't want to be falling asleep. That's where you need to find that balance between getting it too hot, where you just kind of want a bit of a power nap, like your post-Christmas meal.
Yeah, exactly. Don't want to be doing that going down the M23.
And so, something that Mark mentioned, I think it was Mark who mentioned last week. Oh no, it's you, Steve, wasn't it? The Drafty footwell.
I think Mark mentioned it, but I said that, I've been exploring around in the car, and if you actually stick your head underneath the steering wheel column and look upwards, you can actually see right the way through to the bottom end of the windscreen. So I think there's cold coming in from there somewhere. So much so I bought some this fireproof wadding, and I'm going to try and being careful around the wiring and that, but try and bulk it out in there to make it, see if I can stop the draft, because there is definitely a cold area around the foot. So we'll see where that is. But, yeah.
Is that on both sides as well?
No, on the passenger side. Yeah, just around the steering column. On the passenger side, when I fitted my dash cam, I removed the glove box, and in there, right at the top, that's all padded. There is actually padding in there, but it's just around the steering column at the top end of that. You can actually see daylight, which is I've never seen that before in a car. So yeah, some padding will be going in there, and I'll report back and let you know how that works.
I'm hoping for ninja pictures while you're installing.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I must admit that's one thing I've noticed with the MG overall, that it's like there's with other cars, the underneath the steering column, the plastic goes all the way to the back normally. Whereas with the MG, it goes back a few inches and then it's just open. I mean, it's like the OBD port, and that's just sort of just exposed. Yeah. Whereas in most cars, it's sort of it's covered up, and you have to pull a cover off to get access to it.
Yeah, same with the fuse box. That's just open underneath the glove box. Yeah, which is strange.
Likewise, the motor underneath the car.
Yeah.
This dirty, great big hole there.
Yeah.
Where the I suppose for where the ICE engine gets goes underneath, or sticks out through. Yeah. So yes, I have noticed it's a bit drafty at times.
Cool. Well, I'll definitely be interested in seeing how that progress goes for you, Steve. With that,
I'll let you know.
Nice. So that kind of leads nicely on to the next subject: tips, tricks, hacks for your MG. Somebody posted this. They were getting a new MG, I believe, this week, and they're at sort of sourcing what people have done to their MGs to improve it. So I don't know, maybe we could go around the room and maybe we can add things if anybody's done anything. So, Michael, done anything to your MG since you got it? Sorry, Michael Fisher.
Yep.
Very clear about that.
Only installed the dash cam pretty poorly. I've just used the conventional charger, so I've run the cable around the top and side, but then I've just left it hanging around at the footwell at the moment, but I'll tidy up that in a bit. The only other thing I've done is for the granny charger, I've teamed it up with a TP-Link smart plug, so that if I'm using the granny charger, I can get a little bit of time control on that via Wi-Fi. But apart from that, left it stock. That's it.
Steve, I know you've only had yours pretty recently.
I do like to tinker. I've changed the headlights for LED. I've changed the rear registration plate LED lights inside. I've fitted a dimming rear view mirror. I've fitted the kick footplate things. I keep forgetting what they call them. Mike did tell me about what they were.
Oh, the dual scuff plates.
Yeah, them's the ones. Yeah, I was very impressed with those actually from AliExpress. What else have I done? I've done the little. I think the modification I got from yourself, Mike, was the boot liner, where the actual strap from the boot underneath. Yeah, it's right. Cut a little hole in it and poke the strap through. Makes a world of difference.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It does indeed. It does indeed. I can't think what else I've done. I've put some lining around the bonnet, inside the bonnet, because I just found that when I opened the bonnet, it was getting wet inside on the engine or the motor and around the plates around there. So I've put some sealant in there to stop that. And then hopefully the next thing I'll do is as we've just been talking about, the Drafty footwell. That's my next thing. But that's it up to now. Yeah.
Nice. Well, Mike, you've had a series of videos on some of your exploits.
Yeah, some I've kept, some I've got some I've got rid of. But the ones I've kept, I've changed the light bulbs. I went to Osram night breakers originally, the laser ones of the second generation. They were okay, but I think I've got some LEDs in there at the moment, which are very good. I've changed the reversing bulbs. They were terrible, and so I put in some much brighter ones for reversing. That's made a huge difference. I haven't changed the rear LED lights or the indicators, but I've got them. I just haven't got around to fitting them yet. I wasn't going to bother with the number plate lights. I think they're bright enough already.
We're just going for the LED look.
Yeah. And what I have done is I've fitted a Mini Cooper whip aerial at the back, which is about 80 mil long. Okay, it's not a shark fin, but it's the closest I can get to it. It was expensive. It was about £25, but it's transformed the looks at the back end. But there's no impact, from what I can tell, on the actual sound quality of DAB or the FM radio. So I'm happy with that. What else have I done? Tinted the windows. I got 70% light transmission on the fronts. I've got 20 from the B pillar back, and I've got 30 on the rear window. The difference on the rear tailgate window is that I went for a dash cam front and rear. I've got the Nextbase 522 GW and the camera that's mounted on the back window. So I've got my cameras there. I've got Shaft, if you've ever heard of it. It's a clip that goes on a seat belt, and it just stops you from aquaplaning in an accident, but it also helps you sit up straight in the car. I suffer from back problems. I used to use the CG lock, but they seem to have disappeared. It was actually very, very good, and it just locked the seat belt, lap belt in place, so you could still move forwards and backwards, but it kept your back in place against the lumbar support in the car. The Shaft is on those sort of lines, but it's just basically a piece of rubber that goes on the top of the seat belt, and that just holds the seat belt in place, more or less. It's not quite as good as the CG lock, because that was much more of a physical clamp. This relies on friction more, but it works okay. What else have I done?
Mike, sorry to interrupt. Jake on YouTube has asked, are you going to do a video on your LED indicators?
I can do when I get around to doing them. Yes, I will, Jake.
If anyone wants to commission Mike for any more videos,
yes, let me know. I'm just trying to think of anything else I've done. I did do a temperature, inside and outside temperature gauge at one point, but then didn't drive the car for several months because of lockdown, and then they released the comfort updates. So I didn't particularly like the look of it, and it wasn't staying in place very well. So there was no point in keeping it. So yes, so I've had the second generation comfort system update, like I suspect most of you have. I've had the battery BMS update, so the car now charges while it's not locked. So I can plug the car in, finish loading, unloading the car, whatever I'm doing, and the car charges. Or likewise, when you plug it in at a pod point at Tesco's or somewhere like that on one of the 7 kilowatt posts, as soon as you plug it in, it starts to charge whilst you get all your shopping bags out and get ready. And then you can manage the app and just confirm it and that sort of stuff. Other tips and hacks, just can't. Obviously, scuff plates, doors, and I fitted one to the boot as well. The one outside on the bumper was a lot more successful at sticking down than the one on the inside. At the moment, I've got some Gorilla tape holding that one down in place because last time I took the tape off a few hours after I fitted it, it just sprang up. So I've just left it in place for the time being. I want the protection. I'm not that bothered about having the tape there. Oh yeah, spare tire, spare wheel. I've taken the plastic polystyrene foam thingy out of the back and fitted a spare wheel. So it's sitting in the boot, unused, and hopefully never will be, but it's there.
Is it full size or a space saver?
Space saver. Which means that, and I leave the boot liner on the top setting because when I'm going out to see jobs, I need to take a ladder with me. So the telescopic ladder fits quite nicely on top of the spare wheel and underneath the floor. So it just stays there in the car to be used as and when necessary. I can't think of anything else I've done at the moment. Oh yeah, obviously the interior lights.
Yeah, they definitely need doing pretty much straight away for anybody who's just getting their MG. It's I'm going to say it's a job, although actually getting the plastic off isn't the easiest. It's been easier in other cars. Yeah,
when I first tried inserting it, I pushed the bulb holder through, and then realised that but then I realised that the whole unit was actually an awful lot easier to take out than it was trying to get that plastic, that clear, or not clear, but the bit of the white plastic off. So yeah, I think that's it for the time being.
And well, on to our last topic that we've got on the list. Feel free, anybody on YouTube, to ask any more questions about this. But it's probably your biggest upgrade modification to the car is OVMS, the Open Vehicle Monitoring System.
Well, actually, it's not the biggest upgrade I've done to the car by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I've replaced the dampers all round with Bilstein dampers.
Sorry, I forgot about that. Yes.
So did I. that is a massive, very expensive tweak.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect it's going to cost in the region of sort of £800 plus that. So that's what I mean by it's not cheap. But it has transformed the ride and it's transformed the handling of the car, and not just the poise. It doesn't roll as much, but because they are monotube and not twin wall dampers, it means that the front and the rear is a lot stiffer. So that has stiffened up the steering. So the steering actually feels it's got feel there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got so used to it. I was driving a petrol ZS when I had a courtesy car for a day. That felt so weird. The steering and the handling and suspension on that was so bleh. I was very glad to get back in mine. And we've been developing it over since February. And it's made a huge, huge difference to the car. And to me, it's the biggest upgrade that I've done. Probably, I have changed the suspension on other cars, but that's because they needed changing.
Mm-hmm.
This didn't need changing in the sense that they weren't worn out, but it's...
The pleasure of driving it seems to be much more.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you can go over a pothole. I don't get any crashing down potholes like you do with the standard car. And the shock absorbers respond much, much quicker. Whereas with the standard, especially the rear suspension, you go around a corner, it loads the outside wheel, and it compresses the suspension and compresses the suspension and compresses the suspension. And then you hit a bump, and then the back end can step out. And that's very unpleasant when that happens. And it's also not particularly pleasant for the people in the back, just the standard, even if the back end doesn't step out, because it's quite seasick feeling. I had complaints with the standard setup, but I've had no complaints with the current setup.
Is that just the shocks or the shocks and springs?
No, I've only gone for the shocks. The Vehicle Handling Solutions Limited, who are doing them, the guys who've designed them used to work for SAIC. They developed the suspension and a lot of the transmission, suspension chassis for the car, but then were made redundant, and China took it all in-house. And personally, I don't think they did a very good job. So I let them finish it off on my car, and it's
lucky you.
And yes, yeah, I'll have to pay for it at some point. So whilst I've been testing it, it's been free, but if I keep them, which I will be, I'll have to pay for them. But in the meantime, and so they're going to be doing several stages. Stage 1 is rear shocks only. Stage 2 is front and rear shocks, and stage 3 is lowered springs by about 20 mils all round. That seems to be the ideal for the car, based on their knowledge of the car. But I suspect they'd be happy for somebody to test them for them. So if anybody wants to get in contact with them and talk to them about it, it's not something that I'm particularly interested in. I prefer the ride height as it is in the car. So I suppose one benefit of reducing the ride height is increased economy.
Yeah,
because the frontal area will be slightly smaller. I know Skoda, when they brought out the Yeti, they brought out a green line version, which was about 15 millimeters lower, and that had a better fuel economy. It also had a smaller, less powerful engine, which may also help. But yeah, so that's the that's the biggest change I've done. And over to OVMS.
Yeah.
OVMS, Open Vehicle Monitoring System. It's a little box that can be plugged into the OBD port, and it is completely programmable. And there are several guys, Mike Abbott, Christopher State, Glenn Hudson, are all writing code for it to improve the, to make it compatible with the MG. And we're struggling with the preheating side. In fact, we're struggling with sending commands to the car, full stop. We can read data, but we can't send anything to the car. So we can't send it, ask it to turn on heating or cooling. We can't ask it to lock or unlock, and things like that. Hopefully, if we get hold of a Thailand car and plug one of the boxes in and run some logs when they are using the app and doing it using their Thai app, we'll be able to get some information so that we'll be able to do it at our end. But in the meantime, they're just trying to get the MG to work with OVMS, and we're still in a very big beta stage at the moment.
Is that a problem with sorry to jump in, Mike, is that a problem with them being able to wake the car up to actually pass commands to it, or is it that they can't capture the commands, or they don't have a way of capturing the commands because nothing's been sent?
It's all sorts of things. It's getting it's waking the right bits of the car up without setting alarms off, which is probably one of the biggest one, without draining the 12-volt battery.
Yeah.
It's a right balance trying to for them, just trying to get everything to work together and overcome things. And so far we've got state of charge, so we can now see what the state of charge of the car is. So I can log into my OVMS app, and it is showing there that's the state of charge of my car parked on my drive, which, if you can't read it, it says 55%. So if I wanted to charge the car up, I don't even have to look at the dash on the screen. I could just go in and say, right, okay, I want 45% on my OMI app to charge the car. It also shows tyre pressures, tyre temperatures, the battery temperature. We do have a temperature for the motor and for the PEM. I can't remember what PEM stands for, but somebody might be able to tell us. Is it something to do with the inverter or something? Sorry?
Maybe something to do with the power electrics.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is where I'd normally Google something like this. It's
yeah, and it also tells us the state of the 12-volt battery. So, and the battery temperature, which goes back to what we were talking about earlier on rapid charging. I can see that my battery is at 9 degrees at the moment, so it would not rapid charge. It would be quite slow.
What the optimum temperature for sort of rapid charging is about 30 degrees?
Well,
or even higher than that.
Well, actually, it seems to be around 20 to 22 for the MG. The heating, the cooling system seems to cut in at 32 degrees.
Right.
From what guys who have been running OVMS and testing it have come up with, and it brings it down and stabilizes at around 20 to 22 degrees, which seems to be what the MG likes, and seems so. If you get the battery temperature to that point, it seems to charge the car at its fastest possible speed at that point.
Because that's somewhere I could see OVMS being quite useful. If we get this battery heater upgrade, you can have that, turn it on, have OVMS running, plug onto your phone, see when it hits 22, turn it off, and try and coincide that with hitting your rapid charger to be as efficient as possible.
That's
which
right.
I know is probably not the most efficient ergonomic way of driving a car, having like two screens that you're looking at and trying to do that. But if you've got MG Pilot on, it's pretty much of driving, right?
Can I ask a couple of questions, Mike, on OVMS?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Two I've got for you. The first one is is it GPS? How accurate is that? I believe you can see where you are in case the car gets stolen.
Yes, it is very accurate. However, it only works if it's powered on by the OBD port. And if somebody nicks it, they may possibly unplug it, and then you lose your GPS.
Yeah.
The GPS and GSM are optional extras. They're very cheap optional extras. I've installed mine just above the A pillar, above the driver's door, and I've run the units down beside the heater, between the heater and the bit of plastic beside your left knee, and I just padded it out with something I had lying around. So it's just plonked in there, and I've just run the cables around the main wiring to keep it dry and neat using cable ties. So yeah, it needs to be powered on. Now you could power it using the USB. So if you could find a hidden USB power supply to the car, to the units, then yes, it could be used as a tracker.
Right.
But I doubt if the insurance industry would recognize it as being an official tracker.
Oh. And my other question was, I'm going to be getting a pod point installed to charge my car. On the pod point, I believe that has an app. Would that show my charging percentage on there the similar way that the OVMS does? No.
Unfortunately, yeah, okay. No. I haven't come across any domestic chargers 7 kilowatts that do it. I understand the components that do that are quite expensive, which is why you get them in the CCS side, but you don't get them on the Type 2 side. I believe it's part of the Type 2 protocol, but it's expensive to implement.
Right. So OVMS is the way to go then.
Well, you do have the option if you're using your car, you plug it in, then run round to the driver's side door, look in the window,
see
what the percentage is at, and then go inside and then play with your app, which is what I'm doing at the moment with my OMI app. It's like when I'm like, right, I don't need it to be at that level, I need it to be this level, send it. And then there's like a window of opportunity to do that sometimes, where it just like turns down my my change, and I've got to change it on the fly. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm doing it at the moment. Which is all right, it works okay.
It works okay, and that's how I used to do it until I got OVMS. And the other way of seeing the percentage in the car is leave the key inside or in your RFID bag, and then either press the button, I think it is, on the driver's door, and I think it will light up. Or if you've got the key on you, open the boot, and it will also light up.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else got any other questions?
I'm just having a look at the chat, see if there's anything.
Yeah, there's one from Jake. He asks, have any of you driven the MG5 estate? And if so, what's your thoughts on it? Which my answer is no, I haven't driven the MG5, so I can't give my thoughts on it.
Unfortunately, no. Oh, sorry.
No, me neither. I tried to get hold of one. I tried to get hold of it as a courtesy car for my service, but they were having nothing of it. But that's Horsham Car Centre for you. The sales and the service department are completely separate. So
yeah,
service departments.
I may have to wait until my service next September to get potentially have a go in one. It looked really interesting. I mean, personally, I prefer the ride height and the fact that the ZS has got a few more features. It feels like if you look at some of the features of the ZS and the MG5, there's something in each column that you possibly want to have almost like a perfect car. I'd say the range on the MG5 is great. It looks slightly more comfortable. I'd say the seating looks slightly better. I mean, obviously this is just from watching YouTube videos and seeing pictures online, but the fit and finish looks a bit better interiorly. Then on the exterior, the design looks like it's 5 years older than the ZS. So I think for people who have run taxis and things like that, it's going to be a perfect car. But I think for a lot of people who like the creature comforts of the tech in the ZS, it'd be difficult to go to an MG5 from a ZS.
Some people are, though. There's quite a few people on the Facebook group who have decided to chop in their ZS and move over to the 5. And it has its benefits, especially if you're not bothered about being an SUV, but you want the range. The charge flap on the 5 hinges on the side rather than pivoting up, which is definitely better. It's got a third rear headrest, again, definitely better. It's got the chromatic auto-dipping rear view mirror as standard. It's got climate control on the exclusive. It's also got lumbar support. So it has lots of things which are missing. And also, I think the steering wheel goes in and out as well, doesn't it? I seem to remember seeing on reviews.
I hadn't noticed that one. That's a big difference as well. Yeah, I guess. I mean, actually, I haven't struggled too bad with the seating in it, but it was always something I was a little wary of with the Leaf that I had previously, and then with this. But I seem to be the right kind of body shape where that doesn't really matter to me. But obviously, for other people, that's a big issue as well.
Yeah. But the one thing the ZS has got is the sunroof, and my 3-year-old niece absolutely adores it. She was asking for it open today, and it's like, no, it's too cold. You're not having it open.
Yeah, I love that sunroof.
Yeah, my 4-year-old son loves that as well. Yeah, it's the big hit with little kids and big kids as well, I think.
Definitely.
MG Pilot, as mentioned earlier, very good. But I must admit, I use the speed limit function a lot. And have any of you used it?
Actually, I've not used the speed limiter on it. Is it easy enough to engage?
What, the speed audio one, which just goes ping ping when you get to 70?
No. It physically stops you from going over, say, 30 miles an hour and a 30 mile an hour speed limit. So it's enabled on the infotainment system. It's turned off by default. So you have to go into the car settings on the infotainment system, and it is the first screen. And I can't remember whether it's off, manual, or intelligent. Intelligent means that the car will drive, you can't drive the car any faster than the posted speed limit that the car has seen.
Oh, you don't do that.
I worded that specifically because my car sees 20 mile an hour speed limits all around me when I'm on a 30 mile an hour road. So it would not drive faster than 20 miles an hour on a 30 mile an hour road.
My car recognises 20 miles an hour as 70.
I've got one coming up to the motorway. It goes from 30 to 50 where I live, and it sees the 50 as a 5 mile an hour one. So I think people love that.
Exactly, rams the brakes on. So so for intelligent speed assist, which is becoming law, I believe, on most cars in the not too distant future in Europe, the signage needs to be much improved, and you need to have 30 mile an hour speed limit signs all over the place. Repeaters, just like you have 20s and 40s and 50s and 60s. So at the moment, intelligent speed assist is something that's not going to happen for quite a few years yet for budget purposes. So the middle one, manual. You hit that, making sure that ACC is off, so that ACC stalk is pushed as far forward as possible.
Yeah.
And then to activate it, just lift the lever when you're within 5 miles an hour of the speed you want to go to and press set. It only seems to work in 5 mile an hour increments, whereas ACC works in 1 mile an hour increments.
You can't do the whole, then it inks it up.
Yeah. Whereas I haven't yet managed to get it to go at, say, 33 miles an hour. But to be honest, the MG Speedo is one of the most accurate I've come across in a car for quite a long time. So I'm quite happy at driving at 30 miles an hour in a 30 or 40 in a 40 or 50 in a 50. And I use it all the time unless I'm on the motorway, because it just stops me from speeding.
I know the roads around where you live, Michael, and there's a lot where it's like 20 to 30 to 40, then back to 30. It's, yeah, it can catch you out.
Yeah. So yeah, I use it all the time. So yeah, so if you want to go, if you're at 30 miles an hour and you go into a 40, just lift the lever a couple of times and it goes up by 2 5 mile an hour increments. Back down to 30, down by 2 increments. Hit a 60, up 6. You know, just get used to count. One thing, one big gripe I have about the information pack in the middle is everything's too small. Apart from the digital speed, any other writing on there is too small to read, and I have to lean forward and peer at it to see what it's actually saying.
And that looks like another advantage of the MG5, actually, to come back to Jake's comment about that. The dash looks so much better.
That display,
card and everything on there as well.
Yeah, I think the ZS with that display would be brilliant. And a percentage for the battery.
Yeah.
Yes, this 25% for the last one reticle is just crazy.
It gives you a really false sense of security the first time you get it, where you just like, oh man, I've only got like 10% left, because you kind of think, oh, it's the last bar. Why would it be so high? Like other cars I know have done it the other way, where the first bar's worth a lot and then it starts dropping really fast, but I don't know why it's the other way around.
Yeah, the Leaf came. Yeah, well, on the Leaf 40, it came on at 9%, and then the very low battery warning came on at I think it was 4%. But what I then discovered was that once you hit 0, you still had another 8% left before it actually ran out. And I did run it out once deliberately to prove that. But because I had Leaf Spy, I was in control the whole time. Whereas we don't have, well, now we've got OVMS. They're still playing with the figures slightly, just to make sure everything is just right. But, it's all in beta mode at the moment, the software, and they're constantly updating it as they find things that it doesn't work, and improving things and adding things when they find new things that they can add. Plus, you can work out, people ask about the software versions. What's the software versions in my car? The car doesn't tell you on any of the screens, but you can see it in OVMS. You can use the shell and just type in a command and it will show you what they are. And so we have a list of all the ones that people are running, so we can see what are the latest ones, which is very useful.
How do you update your OVMS modules then if they're coming out with new stuff?
There's various. Michael Abbott has ones. As long as you have to contact Michael Abbott or Christopher State, and they have their servers where they have their versions which they're using.
So you don't have to compile them from code; they're pre-compiled.
They're all, yes. Oh, I'm not a computer nerd or anything like that.
So do you take the unit from your car and plug it into the computer at home and it updates for you?
No. I do it using my iPhone. The car has a Wi-Fi hotspot, so you can plug in, and so it'll connect to the car and it will connect to my home Wi-Fi, and it's got client and access point modes, if that means anything to anybody.
Yeah.
So it can connect to my home Wi-Fi when it's at home, but it can also connect to so it doesn't use the modem. The modem it comes with has a free. It's a hologram SIM, and it's got 2 megabytes or something free a month. Well, it's not very much, but it doesn't use very much data for sending up via the GSM module anyway. So I've had mine a couple of months now, and it hasn't used over the data that it's got. So where was I going? I lost train of thought now.
You're saying about updating it by your iPhone.
Thank you. Updating. Yes. So yes. So I just on the Wi-Fi, I just select the Wi-Fi of my car on my iPhone and log into that, and then log into the shell, the web interface on the iPhone, and then just go down to the firmware page, and then just copy and paste the web address that I've been given into the flash the OVMS update, and it then does it. So it's very simple, even for a non-computer whiz kid like me.
Yep, Jake has just put in the chat. They're currently doing a 15% off. It's available until tomorrow, and the code is in the chat. Thanks, Jake.
Yeah,
thank
you so much for that.
Thanks, Jake.
Well, I think with a Cyber Monday deal from Jake, that's a great point to wrap up. Thanks, Steve, Michael, Mike, for joining us and talking about stuff this week. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please give us a like and a subscribe with the notification bell, and we'll hopefully see you next Monday when we do this again. Cheers.